I mean, when you're in the sandwich generation, it's just very specific. It's a very specific time in life. And we were like, we have to talk about this. Like, because no one's talking about this. We have
Can
to
we
talk about this.
swear, by the way?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
100%.
I actually wasn't
Perfect.
totally sure.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Find Your Fuel, the podcast where we bring you stories from women who've overcome different physical, mental, and emotional struggles and found the fuel to live their best lives. I'm your host, Erin Martin, and if all of a sudden you found yourself in the sandwich generation, that unique stage of midlife where you're raising young kids while also trying to care for aging parents and are experiencing the stress, the burnout, the financial strain as you manage all of the tasks and medical needs and financial support for 2 generations, then this conversation is for you. Our guests, Robyn Frank and Eliesa Johnson, know these struggles well as they both have young kids with parents in assisted living and memory care, and they've navigated so much in their combined experiences. So today I picked their brain on all of it, navigating healthcare, finances, the emotional toll. Robyn and Eliesa are also co-hosts of the Sandwich Generation podcast. So if you found yourself in the sandwich generation, then our conversation is your fuel for today.
I want to say the funny thing is when we were going through this in 2020 and 2021, like I didn't know the term the sandwich generation. I think somebody said to me, hey, you're the sandwich generation. I was like, what the hell is that? I'm making a sandwich? They're like, no, get it? You're sandwiched between like taking care of your parents and your kids. I was like, oh, I get it. And so I think, a lot has happened since 2020 and 2021 with this idea because I think more and more people are going through it. But one of the reasons I kept pinging Eliesa is because we couldn't find like cool ways or condensed ways or concise ways or modern ways to get help and information. Like there wasn't really anything out there that was like really addressing this moment in life that felt like us. So that's like another thing I just wanted to add, but I didn't mean to cut you off as the
so
host.
complex. I mean, the more that I hear your guys' story, which we'll hear about next, and just the different modalities that are involved from financial to emotional to everyday living, everything is so complex when you're dealing with aging parents. And then on the flip side, toddlers, it's wild.
Totally.
And I know you guys
It is
both
wild.
it is wild. Have your individual stories. So I would also love to hear those. And I don't know, Robyn or Eliesa, if you want to go first with just your own experience with aging parents.
Yeah. So I think we both kind of entered this phase around the pandemic, and my mom's health was starting to kind of take a turn first, and nothing totally major, but like she didn't have a big health event. It was just she has a lot of autoimmune disease and other physical things happening. So she was then using a walker. She had to stop driving. Housework was becoming really difficult for her. And she really kind of liked the idea of assisted living. And so we started looking at assisted living communities, I guess I should say. And at the time, my dad was like still driving, healthy, on the go. And I mean, we started the conversations early, which is, I didn't really plan on that. I think I'm really lucky that my parents, or my mom specifically, kind of brought the conversation to us. Like she was like, I think I'm ready for something different. I think I'm ready for extra help. So that was good. You know what I mean? But what was harder is the conversation.
Pregnant, right?
I was, I think at the time, no, I think when we started all these conversations and stuff, I was pregnant. But then, Florence was born, and then, when my parents moved, it was a couple of years later because COVID was in there, and there was a lot of places that were not accepting new residents during that time because it was so crazy. So the timeline honestly gets a little fuzzy for me because I feel like by the time that they actually moved, it was like 2021, maybe even.
And they moved
22?
together. So your dad went with her.
They did end up moving together, and that's what I was gonna say is that while my mom was all on board with this idea, it took a long time for my dad to get on board, and he wasn't so sure about it. He didn't r I mean, neither of them really wanted to leave the hometown that they had all been born and raised and lived in, like, they lived there their whole lives,
Yeah, it's their home.
and but they wanted to move closer to us, which is like an hour, hour and a half away from where they were. So it was a big decision and it was a big move. And we went on tours and we actually just recorded an episode yesterday about navigating the whole decision of assisted living. But it's a wild ride to,
Sexy stuff.
yep, yep.
Sexy stuff.
Lots of promises, lots of you know, pictures that are painted, but reality might be a little different. But long story short, we ended up moving my parents, and a couple months later, my dad had a big health event that really changed the course of his health. So it was really good that both of them did move. And they've been champs. They've really kind of considered this their next adventure, but it has not been easy. It's been a series of health events, physical changes, financial loss. You know, it's been a lot. It's been a wild, wild, wild ride. So with my story, I feel like it started off a little more gradual. Like there were conversations. And again, I didn't realize that I was in the sandwich generation either. Like I was just trying to help my parents move. I didn't and in the beginning, I think I was really naive and not wrongly either. I think that everyone enters this phase and if you want to help your family, you're just like, "Yep, I can help," or "Yep, I can do that."
Yeah.
But I mean, I own businesses. I have for 20 years now. I was like, "I can do this. I can help find you guys a place to live. I can fill out paperwork. I can do the thing." But holy shit, it has been so much more than I could have ever imagined.
Hello, second
Um
job.
Absolutely. It could be a full-time job 100%, especially caring for the kids and parents. And even if daycare was in there still, it still feels like a full-time job.
Mhm.
The amount of appointments, paperwork, phone calls. My parents are medical assistants, so there's a financial component to getting them on that program, that state assistance. That was a really, really heavy lift. And that took about a year, year and a half in there too.
Oh, wow.
And if a medical event happens, you drop everything, you're rushing to the hospital, then they're going right to daycare pickup. We're about to leave town on Saturday to go to a cabin for spring break. But on Friday, I have some important mail I need to make sure to get to my parents. I have to go deliver their toilet paper order for the month. There's all these little things to take care of, even in those really small ways, which seem really easy enough. But when they stack up, that's when you realize you're like, oh shit,
This is a
this
whole
is
thing.
different.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is like a marathon. This wasn't oh, I'm just going to help you out. As their health changes, their need for care changes too, and their needs from us change too, even if they're in assisted living. And sometimes even more so a little bit if they're in
Mhm.
assisted living, in different ways that we couldn't have anticipated. So, yeah, but they
Yeah, and I
are
don't want to jump ahead too much, but what are the cliff notes then, or the major things that you learned from the assisted living process?
um
You
we
want me
could
to
So
go
go
on.
many.
next?
Cliff notes. Uh, if you should ask if the assisted living community accepts if they are 100% private pay, meaning that your parents or your family would have to pay completely out of pocket forever and ever, or if they offer or accept
Government
assistance program,
assistance.
yeah, government assistance. So the elderly care waiver, the caddy waiver, depending on age, things like that. So if money runs out for your family member, your loved one, do they accept government assistance? So that's a huge one.
The biggest thing too is to just always be an advocate for your parents.
Mhm.
As people enter into the sandwich generation, you're an advocate for your kids. It's the same.
Mm.
Your parents are vulnerable. They don't always have they have a sometimes interesting idea of Western medicine and doctors. They think they know everything. They forget
Yes.
they can push back. And you realize oh, that's my job now. I have to come in and make sure my parents are getting what they deserve. They're not being secretly charged for things.
Mm.
I would say Cliff Notes, assisted living is a business. Don't ever forget that. There are a lot of people making a lot of money off of the elderly these days. And they're the baby boomer generation. It's going to be huge. They're just on the precipice of it. And so there's a lot of money grabbing going on. So you literally are the person who's like, okay, I need to look at their bill and see what they were charged for.
Mhm.
What would creep into a bill that you didn't, you
Well,
guys
every time, such a good question. Every
Yeah.
time they fall, like at the last place, it was $50 every time they fell.
Oh.
Um, it was like, if they asked for someone, if they pushed their pendant a certain amount of times, they'd be charged like $100, sometimes every time they push their pendant.
wow.
Um,
I
if
did
they,
not
yeah,
know
like,
they charged by stuff like that.
And that's
mhm.
not every
It's not every
place,
place.
but and that's the thing is like every community has their own pay structure. They have sort of their own a la carte menus that sneak in there. They either accept government assistance or they're 100% private pay, or they might have like a percentage of rooms that are available for government assistance, or sometimes even like a shared room situation that you might have to move into. So it's not like a one size fits all system. But
But
Robin's right. There's a lot of like corporate
yeah.
sneaky things happening there too.
And on average, the person in assisted living is paying around $10,000 a month.
And that's
Mm.
just average.
Yeah.
That's
So
not
imagine like if you have two parents in assisted living sustaining $20,000 a month, which like most Americans don't have. So, we could talk to you for a long time about this issue,
yeah.
but you probably don't want to spend all of your time talking about
But
assisted
the
living.
last cliff note that I will say is, which I thought was a really good one from our upcoming episode, is about like to check around and ask around and see like what is the happiness and well-being truly of like the residents there. Are they
Mm.
clean? Are they happy?
Mm-hmm.
What's the food like? How's the staff? Like, is the staff equally happy too? There's a lot of turnover in assisted living these days. And that's, an issue in our entire care system in terms of like hospitals, assisted living, daycares, right? So this isn't, again, just like one place, but are people happy? Do they want to work there? How is the care truly? Not just maybe from the marketing director, but like taking the time to ask around, ask for referrals, read the reviews,
Yeah.
all that's important.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And one thing I heard too, and this is why I love this stuff because I am so uneducated in it. And I'm lucky enough right now to have two healthy parents that I feel so blessed. But because of that, I'm like blind
Take
to
notes.
it in
Yep.
that it could hit at any moment. And so I just don't know all of these things and tips. And one thing I had heard, but I don't know if this is true or not related to self pay or government assisted, is there are some places when you're looking at quality of care, a lot of places that are privately funded and that's what they focus on have a little higher level of care. But if you can find one where you get grandfathered in through self-pay for the first 2 or 3 years, but then government assisted payments can happen once you're
Right.
grandfathered in. That could be one route of finding a quality place where people are happier and it's cleaner. And I don't know if that's true. Have you guys seen that?
I think
Or is that
I think it varies a lot from state to state. So it's
okay,
like hard to
that makes
speak on it
sense.
because like everyone uses different terms and like there's kind of different normalcies for different states. But like one thing that's consistent here that the way they talk about it here is like they want to know, a lot of places want to know if you have the ability to pay out of your pocket for 2 years by yourself
Mm,
before they'll even consider looking at government assistance. And that's
nice.
something like when I went on my multi-tour of all the places, I was like, I'm on a tour for assisted living. That's what they all said. And and this is something we talked about yesterday, if you say something like government assistance while you're on that tour, they look at you differently. Like their face changes. And
Mm,
suddenly they're like, oh, that's who you are. Even if you have a runway, even if you have 2 years, they look at you differently. So, which is insane because most people
yes.
cannot afford these costs. So, like, I'm asking the question because I'm educated and I'm savvy and I know to ask it. But I also know what it means when your face changes because you realize you're not going to make as big of like, it's not as dreamy of an application, right? So
Yeah.
again, it's just kind of understanding that it is a business. There are so many people that are so caring and are so humane about it. And they're like have so many beautiful people that care for our parents, but we also recognize that like people have, understand that this is like a money making, it's a very profitable model, so it's just something to look out for.
Yeah. Oh, and then Robin, on your side, I know you have your own story too. You've done assisted living and memory care for your mom?
Yes. So my story is that in 2020, my dad had a massive stroke, um, kind of at the end of the year. And so my parents were like in their early 70s and they were very capable. They lived, it was fine. My mom was like showing some signs of dementia, but they were very mild. And they kind of like my dad would cover for my mom and it worked, like they were doing just fine. Um, And then when my dad had his stroke, everything changed. I'll never forget that day. And they thought he would never speak, like he was in really bad shape. And while he was convalescing, like while he was rehabilitating, my mom was trying to go see my dad on her own, but she was struggling with like directions and she was just like getting a little bit shaky about driving. She never liked driving on the freeway. And one day she was going to visit him and she got in a massive car accident. And that was the day that I knew my life really changed because I was pregnant. So that was into 2021. And I remember rushing to the ambulance and the scene and like she could have died. But I realized like, oh my God, like my mom is like her capabilities have completely changed and I am about to have a baby. I had a 1.5-year-old at home and I was like, what do I do? Like, should my mom come live with me? Like, and my sister and my dad was not in assisted living yet. He was actually kind of in the in between. So here we are, we've got their house. And like when I would go into the house, even to like check on my mom, because she was kind of like by herself suddenly, because my dad was rehabilitating, like the dishes were not cleaned. There was like a lot of moldy stuff in the fridge. Like I didn't recognize it as my mom's space. And so a lot of these things were kind of coming to light. And I feel like COVID actually accelerated my mom's condition too, because she was such a social person. So ultimately, she did get an Alzheimer's diagnosis a little bit later, like into 2023. So that took a while. But ultimately, my sister and I knew, and my sister and I do this together, but she doesn't live where my parents live. But we knew that my mom could no longer live alone. And we knew that my dad couldn't go up the stairs, right? So, like, and the medical professionals were all asking the questions of like, who's going to take care of your dad? What does your house look like? Do you have stairs? Is there a bathroom on the lower level? And like, you're kind of putting all this together and you're like, holy shit, like my parents have to move out of the home that we all grew up in. This is insane. Like, we're going to have to, so you're telling me we're going to have to like find a place for them to live. We're going to have to sell their house. Like, we're going to have to face the fact that my mom maybe has like officially has dementia. She can no longer drive. My dad can no longer drive. Like, it felt, as much as Eliesa said things happened slowly for her, mine felt overnight.
Mhm.
Meanwhile, I'm about to have a baby in March. So like, what the fuck are we going to do?
Well, and I think that's the thing is like sometimes things creep in slowly, but no matter what, like when my dad had his health event, which was like 2 months after they had moved into assisted living, that was my like, bam, we're in a different space. Like, because they were also perfectly codependent
Mhm.
when they're both healthy,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so if one of them goes down, and even still to this day, like they're certainly more fragile than ever. But like on their good days, they can make it through in certain ways. And on their bad days, it's like they need a lot of help. So it's, if you're in the sandwich generation, likely there's a day when you realize like your life has changed, things are different, and you suddenly step into this role as a caretaker or a caregiver for your parents. And you might not even recognize it right away, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then when you have your little ones,
Yeah.
it's just double time.
Yeah. And you had asked about memory care. So that has been more recent. My parents did live together in assisted living from 2021 to 2025. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And then just recently, I was very averse to my mom going into memory care. So I put up a very, very long fight. Longer, my sister maybe thought longer than I should have, but I really felt like the minute she went into memory care, she would decline. dramatically, and that did happen. Um, it was kind of a dramatic case. She fell several times when she went into memory care, but she's in a wonderful place and she gets really great care. But it was a really, really, really heavy decision. And we had to separate my parents, and they've been married since 1972. So
So they're in the same building, but your
they're in the
mom is
same
on the
building.
memory care side and your
Yeah.
dad's in assisted living side now, right?
And yep.
Yeah.
And after every meal, my dad goes to visit my mom.
Oh.
And it's really, really sweet. And they, hold hands. And then he just is like, "Do you still love me?" And I'm like, "Dad, can you stop?" Like, yes, she loves you. And then she kind of rolls her eyes because I feel like she recognizes. She's like, "Oh yeah, he's crazy." But
There's a
um,
lot of that in my parents' building too, where one spouse might move in because the other one needs memory care, or maybe they live in an apartment together for a while, then they have to be separated. That is a very common thing. I think that
yeah.
happens. Yeah.
Mhm. And do you feel like your mom's decline, were you anticipating that because of separating from your dad, or just the facility and that type of environment wouldn't be as good for her? Or both?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think when I recognized that my mom's decline during COVID had a lot to do with the fact that she was so isolated. Like, my mom is such a social being. And I think not interacting with as many people really affected her. Um, I kind of felt the same way about memory care. It's like we
Mm.
all are a product of our environment. And I felt like the minute I took her away from my dad, which he was like her, you know, sign of normalcy and the way she always lived, and they would have regular conversations and they would do all the same things. I felt like taking her away from him was such a disruption of who she is and her routine. And I mean, my parents are such a unit. Everyone knows them together as Dan and Barb. And who is she without him, right? So I think those were some of that's what was on my mind. Because I knew once she went into memory care, I did a lot of tours of memory cares, and you can't help but sort of become part of your environment. And it's a lot of what it really looks like. And even if they're wonderful, or if they're, all the memory cares kind of look similar, where it's people are all, there's kind of 10 wheelchairs, and it's mostly women, and they're kind of sitting in a circle and they're doing activities, but there's not a ton of talking, or there's a random woman yelling at somebody or everybody. But there's so much beautiful care. And I mean, the patience that goes into these people are literally, they are angels that fell from heaven that take care of my mother. I mean, it's just the amount of patience and love and compassion and that it takes. So yes. And unfortunately with my mom, she did actually fall a couple of times when she got into memory care, because it was the same thing. She was used to my dad. If she woke up in the middle of the night, my dad would be there to be like, "Barb, what are you doing? Come back to bed." He would get out and help
Mm.
her. But there
Yeah.
was nobody there to do that. And she was confused and she was sad and she was getting out of bed in the middle of the night, and she fell. And so I think those falls actually really kind of accelerated her Alzheimer's. So it's been middle of January. She stopped being able to address me. So she no longer really knows my name or my sister's name. I do believe she still knows who we are, but that was a very hard. There's so many chapters or moments of loss that come. Those are the things that come slowly.
Mhm.
Um, so grief is very strange when you have someone like a parent who's declining, because it's like you say a very slow goodbye. You're like, "Well, today I said goodbye to my mom knowing my name."
Mhm.
So that sucks.
Yeah.
But she's still in there, though. She's still in there, and she does know I'm someone very special to her, and my sister too, and my dad too. So that's something we have. So anyways, sorry.
No, that's what that's what this is for. Someone's feeling that same feeling and going through it. So I appreciate you sharing that. And such a hard thing to now. I mean, are you visiting at the same cadence? I mean, what does that look like now, knowing that when you come, she's not going to recognize?
Well, I'm not proud of it. It's funny you asked that, because I was just feeling guilt today. Guilt is like a big part of our lives, I would say.
It's very present.
I mean,
Yep,
it
all
always
the time.
was. Like, I mean, I'm Jewish. I don't know. I was raised with it. But it's like, I feel like part of the sandwich generation, part of being a
Yeah.
caretaker is like the guilt stuff that it's nice to talk about because I realize like I'm not the only one. Like, everyone feels it. Um, but it's interesting because it's harder for me to, like, it's more important than ever for me to go be with my mom. But it is like, every time before I do it now, it's like I have to like get in the right
Yeah.
mindset to
Headspace.
do
Yeah.
it, headspace, and I've chickened out sometimes when I'm just like,
That's okay,
I
though.
don't think I can do it today.
That's
Yeah.
okay. Robyn is incredible.
Yes. I mean, oh my gosh, because I had mentioned before, I'd listened to some of your guys' episodes of just all the things you guys have gone through. And I know that you have a sister who lives out of state. So I can kind of imagine her also feeling some of the guilt of not being as close. And you're the one person who's in state, which then maybe magnifies your guilt because you're the one who's there. And so puts an extra burden on you. But I do love how you guys have stayed together and close as sisters to be able to navigate it together. But I can
Yeah.
anticipate that that's a rough one. That's one I feel often because I'm out of state for my parents and my sister as well. And I just try to imagine, like, oh my gosh, like if I'm needed, how do I do this? I'm a state away. Like, I
Mm.
don't
So
know
you're
how to
both, you
navigate
and your
it.
sister live in a different place than your parents?
My sister lives near my parents.
Okay.
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 So
That's
kind of
good.
your
That'll be good.
situation,
Yeah.
Robyn. Yeah.
hmm I was really happy. Like, my sister is a very special person to me, and I feel like we are like in a very unique place more than we've ever been because my mom, another thing we lost is our mom would call us every day, and I didn't always answer because I'm like, I'm busy, mom. But my sister talked to her multiple times a day, and I realized like there is a huge absence in our lives now because of that. So I feel like I think we're trying to fill that for each other, which is really beautiful. But it's not always easy. Like, we fight, and we do all the things, but it's been nice to, like, I was really happy she agreed to come on the podcast and be real about all that stuff because I think, and we're going to actually have an episode on being an only because Elisa, I mean,
That's
it's
another one.
challenging to have help, right? And it's challenging to have like siblings and maneuver that. I can't imagine being the only person. Like, especially when you have to make a hard decision. Elisa's like, well, let me talk to me. What do you think? Me? I don't know. Me? What do you think? Me?
They
So,
both have their,
yeah.
advantages and disadvantages, I guess I would say. Yeah.
hmm
So when you're just so strong to get through this, having young kids and all these decisions. So I'm curious if there's anything that reflecting back now has helped you navigate it just on the emotional side because it's so heavy. I mean, not even to mention the logistical side of it, but is there any tools that you've seen help get through as you navigate everything?
My therapist. No, it's, I think a way that my, uh, the burden of it or the hardness of it can show up for me, is like irritability. Like, I'll get irritable and kinda, like, shut down or get quiet or something like that. So, and sometimes there's just, like, so much that you're juggling at once that then I'm, like, resentful of that or something, but things that have helped, I mean, really are my therapist. Um, but I think talking about it has been honestly a big gift because to otherwise it's a topic that's so, like you said, complex and complicated that when we're going about our lives, it's like you don't want to be the person that every time you see your friends, they're like, "How are you?" And you're like, "Ugh, let me
Not
tell you
good.
about
Thanks
the
for asking.
hospital today. God damn." It's just like you don't want to be that person. And
Yeah, because it's
then
heavy.
it is heavy, yeah, and then you don't wanna be the person that feels like they're complaining all the time, but then also when you pretend like everything is fine, that doesn't benefit you either.
Yeah.
So I think that I've had to do a lot of work on, like, recognizing when things are getting to be too much or when I need to talk about it. Um, I mean, since we started our podcast, Robyn and I's friendship, as we were friends, but we didn't hang out all the time. And now we get to see each other all the time and talk about this. And it's amazing, right? Like,
And I
it's
sit in her
so
lap,
amazing.
basically.
Yeah. So that has been very therapeutic in itself. But I think for listeners or people who are in this situation, finding people that you can have as like that outlet, like, I think somebody gave this as a tip recently, like finding a friend who you can be like, can you be my person when I need to talk? Like maybe it's not even a therapist, and giving them full permission to be like, today is not a good day, call me tomorrow, or something like that, right? But if there's someone who will just like listen, that's kind of enormous. I don't have any like magic app or, you know, programs that I've used. I've frankly done a lot of it myself. And that was, if there's one thing that I think I've learned that I would do differently, is to call professionals to help a little more, because
Mm.
I, like 5 years ago or 6 years, whatever, 6 years ago, when I kind of entered this space, like my parents were in a small town and they kind of had an elder care attorney they were working with. But I remember calling him and he was like, "Oh, your parents are moving to the city? I don't know anything about that. Goodbye." Like he just like didn't, like they tried to set me up for success in ways, like they tried to do their best and no one was helpful. Like they had a horrible financial advisor, they had a horrible elder care attorney, they had and so I just kind of assumed, and I did like look for resources too, but I knew my parents' funds were limited. I knew I was starting to understand the cost of care where they were moving in assisted living. And I was kind of like, okay, well, it can't be that hard, right? And I just didn't know. And so if I had any advice, I would say what I have learned is there are elder care attorneys who will help navigate all the legal, right? Like, and get you set up with all the paperwork, whether that's like power of attorney, um, set up all their like kind of end of life wishes, just make sure that things are in order instead of going about it myself like I did.
Mm.
Spend the money to get the help, right? Like even if you have limited amounts of money, that's going to help you massively. And there's also attorneys in elder law who will help with medical assistance forms, state assistance, help with a lot of that workload, where I just didn't think that that was an option, or I didn't think that we could afford it. Right. So, and I think it was a little bit of both too. Like at the time when I was looking, I'm sure that there were attorneys' offices that could help with this, but I couldn't find any of them. And so and now Robyn and I are in this, caregiving space and have the podcast and we're talking about this more. And so we're connecting with more professionals who are very focused on elder care. And every time we speak to them, I'm like, I wish I knew that you were around. But I think that is a positive of where we're at in the world in 2026, is that people are talking about these resources more. They are putting elder care kind of at the front of what they offer, maybe in their law firms or their financial planning offices or things like that, right? And the earlier that families can talk about this stuff, the better. Um, so in terms of what helped me, I kind of have a wish list of like what I wish I had.
This is the playbook that I give everyone else in the world.
Yeah,
Go
yeah.
forth.
Don't do it alone.
Is there a website or any good resources that you would recommend that have all of those as like a library in one place? Or is it more just
So
they're out there and you got to Google?
We have some good organizations. She loves to talk about this.
I
Go.
do. So there is a website called We Care Out Loud. It's either wecareoutloud.com or careoutloud.com.
It's called careoutloud.com.
Yeah. And that is a really great website because it's going to get better. Like they're really working on like a lot of improvements with it too. But even as it stands right now, it's a great resource because they understand that caregivers, and especially sandwich caregivers, have like 5 minutes of time. So they've kind of compiled a lot of like things that are on the internet to one place. And you can be like, I am a caregiver, my parent has Alzheimer's, and I want to know how to have a conversation. And it will like prompt you all these resources. They also
Mm.
have like conversation starter cards, whether that is to talk about grief, whether it's to talk about moving, whether it's to talk about,
Not
memory.
driving.
Exactly, exactly. Like, they have all of these prompts that are just, like, sometimes even just having the language as a tool of, like, how
Oh,
to
yeah.
start a conversation is a huge benefit. So I've loved that website. They also have checklists, for, like, if you're trying to get your shit together or trying to get paperwork in order, they kinda have a checklist, that you can just download. It's all free. The entire
We
website
should
is
link
free.
it on our we like Elisa does a lot of the show notes and everything, but
Mhm.
we should probably have some of those all the organizations on our website. Do we have them?
We don't yet. We have them in show notes. We don't have,
Yeah,
like, a spot in our
we should
website.
do
We
that.
should do that. But
And
it
listen to our
is
podcast.
that one, yeah, that one will
That
come
too.
out actually on March 26th. Season 2 will launch, and that our first episode, we actually talk about, like, getting your paperwork all together because that's
Mhm.
something that, like, we also need to do again, right? And whether it's for yourself or your parents. But in that episode, I talk about it a little more, and then I will have a link to that. But you can also link it in this episode. It's
Mhm.
out there for everyone. But Care Out Loud is really great. Um, Actually, for Alzheimer's specifically, the Alzheimer's Association website is a wealth of knowledge. We have a whole episode on season 1 specifically about Alzheimer's, and when it's like that these websites have resources, but, like, who's actually going to them, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And that recording that episode was a reminder of just how much effort they have put into making this easier for families
Mhm.
and how much information and support is actually out there and available.
Uh-huh.
That's a big one. There is an app called Ionicare, which stands for I Am Not Alone Care.
Mm.
And that, is newer. It's a newer company, but it's been around for, a while now. We also just, interviewed one of the owners or the co-owners, I think she is.
Mhm.
Jessica Kim is her name, and that app has a resource with a federal Medicaid program where, and I believe it is also Alzheimer's specific.
Mhm.
I'd have to look into it, but it's a program where, like, if you use their app and it links you with help. It links you with people who will help you. And
Mm.
that is a program that is free and funded by a federal Medicaid program. So but people don't know about it yet.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's so many resources, but as like a very simple place to start, We Care Out Loud is kind of I love it.
The
It's also a
go-to.
very fun website to be on.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I love the specific scripts to use and things to say because that is such, I think, the hard piece of just starting the conversation and why so many people don't. Like, I
Yes.
don't know, Robin, with you, did you guys ever talk about future plans with your parents? Like, what do you guys wanna do when you're older? Like, was that conversation ever had?
That I'm glad you asked that because I remember for some reason I was in the car with my dad and I remember my parents were they were sales reps. They were actually 1099s their whole life. They weren't W-2s. And which only matters because of like the way they like would save money or not save money or the way they would have to like pay in for tax estimates and all this stuff. And I just remember thinking like when my dad was like around 50 or 55, I somehow asked him like, "Do you have retirement?" And he like we were at the gas station and he like out of the car, he's like, "Don't worry about it." And I was like, I think that means no." Okay. And then I remember when things started to happen with my mom, like when we started to notice that she was having a hard time word finding, she was having a hard time sort of like finding her way around. We were trying to figure out like, what do we do? And I think it was, my mom was very defensive. I did try to talk to her a couple of times about what was happening with her, and she was very defensive. She had sort of anticipated that she would get Alzheimer's, so she was a very proud, very capable woman. Like we all went to her for everything. So I think it was very difficult to have those early conversations. Also going to the doctor with her was very difficult. Now, my chart wasn't what it is now, but like I didn't know any other way to communicate with the doctor about like, hey, my mom has some problems mentally, but like I don't want to talk about it in front of her, but I was
Yeah.
forced to.
Mhm.
And that was very, very, those were very hard appointments and very hard days. Um, so now I feel, and then just recently I was like, Dad, do you have any plots? Do you have plots? Just wondering, just casually wondering, do you have plots? And he's like, no. And I was like, okay, okay, okay. So no, I wouldn't say we're like the best example of we are able to talk through a lot as a family, but it's hard. It's really hard. Um, and I don't think like, you just don't know until you know, and I guess that's why we all knew that my dad was not in good health. He wasn't taking care of himself, and we knew that my mom had some memory issues, but, like, did we know that shit was gonna go south in, like, 2 seconds? No.
Yeah.
I really thought we just had more time. I really thought we had more time to figure that shit out, and I thought some fairy was gonna come along and be like, "No, you're good," you know? So I'm glad you asked that because we are the example of, like, how it didn't go well. But I will also say one thing that has been really like a godsend for us is like my parents very easily did surrender their finances and stuff my dad very easily was like, okay, here's the deal. Like, I can't online bank. I don't even know what you're talking about. I can't see my money anymore. And I can't really go to the bank. So he was able to like turn a lot over. We did have a hard time with power of attorney because he's like, I just want to know that I can go get Chinese every Wednesday without you breathing down my neck. You know, if I give you power of attorney, does that mean I can't do that anymore? And I'm like, no, Dad, it doesn't mean that. You could still go get Chinese. Okay. So that was a little challenging to like sign over the power of attorney and go through like the medical directive. But we were able to do those two things when my parents were both pretty sound of mind, which was really, really helpful. Power of attorney and medical directives. Sometimes they're different, varying in states, but
Yeah, can you
we
break
were
those
able to.
down a little more?
Yes. So sometimes power of attorney can be both medical and financial. Basically, and here
Mhm.
in Minnesota, it's like a little different, but basically what it means, power of attorney, um, you can have multiple people that have power of attorney, but it basically is saying like I can participate in making hard decisions for my parents. I can sign off on certain things. I can um both financial and legal. A lot of times, like for instance, when I like now when I go to assisted living, if they need me to sign something, they always say, "Are you power of attorney?" But my sister is also power of attorney. It's not just one person who can be it. And my dad is still power of attorney over my mom, and my mom is still power of attorney over my dad.
Mhm.
So that can get a little complicated when you're making group decisions. Um, and then the medical directive is basically saying when I get close to like I'm nearing a possibility of no longer being able to be resuscitated, or like I'm at the end of life and I could be resuscitated, what is it going to look like? Do you want full resuscitation? Can your body take actual, heart machine charges? Do you want just to be comfortable? Do you want to be resuscitated if you stop breathing? That's part of the medical directive. And then the other part is like, who's going to make that decision when the time comes? The person who is dying or the person who has the medical directives can say like, this is what I want. But then the second part of that is like, in that moment, who is going to make those decisions? So that's kind of, did I say that right, you think?
Yeah, and sometimes, like, I think a medical directive also is like if someone is just like incapacitated and in the hospital, um, like maybe you know that they're going to survive, but somebody needs to make decisions on their behalf. That's where like the medical directive would come in to play along with the power of attorney. Oftentimes they go hand in hand. But power of attorney is more financial and legal, and medical directive is overseeing like medical decisions.
If your parents you can see are sort of like in a vulnerable place, or even if they are just
Honestly,
totally
if they're
healthy,
fine, everyone
it's
should get it.
I feel like
Yeah.
one of the best conversation starters that I wish I would have known or thought of or whatever is like, okay, everyone is okay. Just in case like something were to happen, or like we're just trying to get everything in order, trying to get everything organized. because we care about you so much, could we like go together to the lawyer, to your lawyer, and talk through this and get some of these things in order, just so that we have them in order when the time comes and everyone is healthy.
I mean, how you were just saying, you're like, I'm not in this situation. My parents are both healthy. Like, they're great. That is the perfect time
Yeah.
to get even like the basics of estate planning or forms like power of attorney or
Which
what did we just say?
sometimes
Medical directive.
will your living will cover some of that? Maybe I'm mixing
Well,
that up, or maybe that's a state specific
yeah,
thing.
no, the medical directive, that is another term for it is the living will. Yeah,
Okay,
a lot of people call it that. Yes.
And that's the
gotcha.
thing. There's a lot of terminology that means
Yeah.
like the same thing, but they're called different things in
Yeah.
different places or in different states or yeah.
Still
Yep.
can't fucking the Medicare, Medicaid thing. Fuck
I
you.
know.
I don't fucking know. I don't fuck. I'm like, I
Which
don't
is which?
fucking know. Okay. The one with the heart, the one with that. I don't fucking know. Yeah.
I know, which like, okay, so what other hot tips do you guys have on the financial side, the actual logistics of it? I mean, it sounds like you took over then your parents' finances. Like, what did that process look like? Was it easy? What did you have to overcome?
Well, yeah. How much longer do you have? No. Okay. No, like we were actually just talking about this. I just listened to our first episode, which I love, about getting your shit together because it's like called the Great Gathering.
Oh,
And the idea is like, hey, mom, dad, can I like, just so we can get organized and if something happens, same kind of thing. Like, would you be like, where are your passwords? Like, how do you get, like, where's your file cabinet of like where you keep all of your banking information or your financial assets? Like when me and my sister took over, yes, we were lucky because my dad had a stroke and he was willing to, I mean, he couldn't really help it. He was like, I had a stroke, here you go. But it was like we started a Google sheet, basically, me and my sister, and we basically like went through all the mail. We like went to their house, got all their mail, opened up all their bills, and then literally started like a spreadsheet of like, okay, here are all the bills, here's all the balances, this is what they pay monthly, this is what their expenses are, because your parents might not necessarily have that. Sometimes you have organized parents that do, but my parents didn't. Also, like we have to create online accounts for everything, and then we have all the list of passwords, and then this whole spreadsheet is password protected. Then that spreadsheet started to have things like we keep their social security numbers on hand because you need those all the time. We need to know like Elisa has a hack for like keeping a picture of their IDs and their insurance cards in her phone so that like at the ready, and their medication list at the ready, so that like when she isn't this sexy stuff,
Yeah.
aren't you like, ooh,
Gathering.
sexy? But that Google sheet really saved me and my sister. We still use it today. Like we still refer to it when we're trying to figure out like what's going on with mom and dad. How do we get into their iPad? How do we get into their phone? How do we get into their AT&T,
Especially since everything is like becoming like a fingerprint or a facial recognition thing. Like if you have someone in the hospital and you need to log into their my chart that's on their iPad that needs their fingerprint and they're not available at the moment because they're in the hospital, like then you need to figure out ways around that. There is a lot of logistics involved in the caregiving side of it. It's not just like the physical, taking them to doctor's appointments or bathing them or things like that, which are all things that also need to happen sometimes, even if they are in assisted living, right? And
Yeah.
so,
Buying toilet paper, it sounds like.
yes, exactly. There's just like a mental load that comes with this specific place in life that, like, when you have kids, everyone's like there to support you. They're all really happy and excited for you and like willing to bring over dinner and, all this stuff. And we talked many times on the podcast about how, like, when you're in this sandwiched place in life, it's sort of similar where like you don't know what to do and you're not thinking about it until that day shows up. And then you're like, oh, whoa, my life just changed, right? And there's
Yeah.
not a lot of people setting up a meal train to like bring you dinner when you're like in the thick of it. So you're juggling like your normal life and then you're juggling their needs, and both with kids and aging parents, like everyone's needs are changing constantly, right? Like nothing stays
And like my dad will
the
call
same
me
for
and be
them.
like, how much do I have in my bank account? Because I want to take these people to dinner.
Yeah.
And I'm like, 1 second.
Yeah.
Like That's weird. He can't get in. So like, I'm
But yeah,
driving right now.
oh my gosh, I can't imagine that mental tax because already you guys are right as moms. I'm already thinking about, okay, this summer, what camps do I need to sign them up for? What needs to happen here? Like just the mental to-do list is wildly long already. So throw in 2 more people where you have to do that same thing, which I just keep going back to this toilet paper thing, but this is blowing my mind because it's like the fact that that is one more checklist item is like so
Yeah.
significant and telling of just the a million things that you guys need to do then. And is it just
Yep.
because you're trying to save money in all these areas and they're going to charge you extra for toilet paper, or where does that come from? I'm
No,
just
it's not
curious.
provided. Like,
Okay,
it's
so
not
you
something that's
have this
provided.
list of what you have to provide from a supply perspective.
Yeah, so, like, there's a lot of things that, you and again, this is sort of one of the things where you move into assisted living and you're like, "Oh, things are just taken care of for me."
It's a
Yeah.
But
resort,
but there's yeah.
but it's not a resort.
It's like on one hand, it's like there's housekeeping, but depending on it, they only come like once a week for like 15 minutes, so it's like, or a half hour or something like that. It's a very brief cleaning, right? So, like, if,
But you need to provide like we have to have a broom
yeah,
and
oh,
a
yeah, like it's like
soap.
yeah, I mean, they're responsible for, like any of the household goods that you have at your house, right? Like your shampoo, all your hygiene stuff, your over the
Mhm.
counter things, toilet paper, paper towels, dishwasher detergent, like, laundry detergent, all these things
Yeah,
Light
your
are out of
bulbs.
soap
pocket
shopping just
still.
doubled.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, we live in a world where things can be automated, right, and delivered, but that also comes at a cost. And it's a funny place to be because it's like, my parents don't need like laundry detergent every month necessarily, but then some months they do. Or I think for my parents, it's actually more, my dad has type 2 diabetes. And so while they get 3 meals a day on their meal plan through assisted living, his blood sugar needs like more regulation through
Yeah.
healthy sources of food than
She's like, I know about this.
yeah, that so like if his app and his like glucose monitor like wakes him up in the middle of the night and he's really low, then he needs to eat something. Well, my
Mhm.
parents are medical assistants, so they live off of $120 a month, and we all know the cost of groceries. And so even to get simple things like a loaf of bread, some deli meat, some cheese, something that could be like a healthy-ish snack in the middle of the night to help his blood sugars, like we're paying for that out of pocket, right? That's not anything that like the kitchen would give them because they've legally provided them 3 meals a day already. But
Mm.
even though that goes along with his health care, it's like that's still on us.
Mhm.
So it's little things like that. So I usually do a grocery delivery. My parents are doing their best to they take their little like rascal scooters over there's a grocery store across the street from their assisted living, so they go on, like, little joy rides when they're feeling good over to because they also want to. Like, they
Oh, yeah.
want to get out. They want to feel like they're doing something normal again, right? Um, but that's not, an option all the time for them either, on a bad day, that's not an option. Um, so it's things like that. It's like we supply their toilet paper and bring it there because I'm already Instacarting groceries over, right? Or maybe we have mail to bring over, or there's so much paperwork
Oh
too.
my
So,
God.
like on Friday, I'm like, yep, you have some important mail that needs to be delivered, and I need some tax information, and I'm going to do a toilet paper delivery because I
Mhm.
still have to do their taxes, right?
Ugh,
Like,
me too.
Oh,
Shit,
I
yeah.
know,
I gotta do their taxes. Oh
I
my God.
know.
That's
Ugh.
crazy when you do your parents' taxes. Oh, fuck.
Yeah. But like they're
I
trying to
know.
make it work
Yeah.
the best they can, but it's also like $120 a month does not go far at all
Yeah.
for like groceries, let alone like if they want to go to the movies, which I haven't done in so long, right? Or like if I mean, that was one of the big reasons why my dad had to also stop driving was because they could not afford the insurance or the maintenance on their van anymore. It was also time. So it was time.
You're
But
like, "You
like,
dovetailed well."
yeah, exactly. But it like, it wasn't sustainable for them to have a vehicle while on medical assistance because of the expense of it. So
Yeah.
there's just so many little things, haircuts.
Yeah.
Mm.
Like things like haircuts are not provided.
Yeah.
Also any over-the-counter products. When my parents are on medical assistance, said that a million times, but, like, there are programs where, like, quarterly they're given, like, let's say $150 for any, like, over-the-counter products. So that can cover laundry detergent, shampoo, conditioner, you know, a lot of, like, hygiene over-the-counter stuff. Otherwise, that would be coming out of pocket. That's not provided by assisted living,
Mm.
right? And so we've had to, like, opt into these programs, which are also so confusing, you know? It's like,
Yeah.
it's great that they're there, but it's not
And are
it's a
they
lot
do
of
you
work to
opt
get
in
on
through
them.
the assisted living programs, or is this a separate?
No, it's, like, separately through their insurance, so it's weird. It's like they're on medical assistance, and then they have a Blue Cross Blue Shield, like, supplemental health care plan that they through the state now that they also pay into, that comes out of their Social Security, and then the over-the-counter program is, like, through Blue Cross
Mm.
somehow, but only because they're on this other waiver program.
Are you guys still with
So,
us?
it's like yeah, it's a big web of, like,
Yeah, it's
a
yeah,
system. Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. It's yuck. Yuck. Yuck, yuck, yuck.
Oh my
But
gosh.
yeah.
Well, I know you ladies are so busy. We were just talking when we first started of how it's amazing that you guys started a podcast to talk more about this topic while still having kids. We didn't even touch on kids because who would have thought that the kids were the easier
They're
part
nothing.
of this
Yeah.
situation?
Yeah.
Who knew?
They're along for the ride. Like, literally along for the ride.
Yeah.
Yeah,
My
honestly.
daughter was pushing my daughter just turned she was 3, I guess. She just turned 4, and she was like we take them a lot to go visit Baba and Grandpa, and she was like, "I wanna push Baba." So I was like, "Okay." So she was, like, pushing her wheelchair, like, into the wall, and I think the staff was kinda like, "Are you gonna let your daughter ram your mom into the wall?" But I was kinda like, "Well, yeah, I mean" I was like, "Be careful, honey." But she was like, "I am being careful." And I was like, "Okay, but it's also a beautiful moment, you know? Just don't ram her into" yeah, but it's like, you know,
My daughter
this is life. This is life.
Florence loves to go on, like, scooter rides, so they're mobile scooters again. My mom uses a walker, my dad is kinda half walker, half cane sometimes, but they both have mobile scooters, and so she loves to go on a ride, like, down the hallways of assisted living. Like, I think she thinks it's
They
like an
go
amusement
together.
park
Yeah.
ride or something like
Yeah.
that,
I
yeah.
love
Yeah.
that. You
Yeah.
got to find the fun and joy in what you can.
That's right.
Absolutely.
That's right.
And I am
Absolutely.
wondering before we go, though, is there anything else from some of the deepest lessons you've learned that you want to share before we leave? Because I love your guys' wisdom and experience. And if there's anything else from just that knowledge and experience side that we haven't covered, if there's anything that comes to mind.
I mean, I think I'm actively trying to practice what I preach when I
Mhm.
say this, but asking for help, hiring professionals instead of going at it alone, because again, we have learned there are actually so many resources out there. You don't have to do it all yourself. It is worth the cost or the money. Um,
Radical acceptance.
Radical
I learned this from
acceptance.
Elisa, and I, like,
Yeah.
think about it all the time. Even sitting here while we were talking about everything, I, like, started to get anxiety about all the stuff I haven't done. I'm like, "I'm recording a podcast, but I should be doing my parents' taxes." But, but it's like, you know, my house is a mess. Like, yesterday, everything was on fire. Everything. Everywhere I looked, I was like, my child hasn't brushed his hair or his teeth, I don't think, in 48 hours, and everything is a mess, and there's macaroni on the floor, and we're going to have macaroni again, and I haven't done my parents' taxes, and blah blah blah, and I just have to breathe and accept the mess and radical acceptance for the moment I am in. And that is like one of the best tips I feel like I've gotten out of this is like, yeah, this is it. And it's okay. And
Mhm.
I'm going to get my shit together, but it
And
might not be
all
till
like,
Friday.
some days it's just like, that's enough. That's all we can do.
Mhm.
And oftentimes, especially like Robin and I both own our own businesses. And so we're used to like functioning on this level,
Of
you know,
chaos.
yeah, but also we're like very self-motivated. We are determined. We are, we know how to build things. We know how to put it
Feeling
all
control
together. Yeah.
and losing
And
some
there's none of
control.
it. in this situation. Like, it's like you have kids and you're like, okay, I guess I'm really learning how to be flexible and like really learn. But then this place in life, you're just like, okay, well, everything's a shit show and that's enough for today, gang.
Yep.
That's it. That's it, you know?
Also, I know that you work out, right? Obviously, that's like
Yes.
and I have started, so this is just, I don't know what if it's a tip or not, but I do think this has changed my life. Because of everything that happened with my parents, I started to do a deep dive into what happened to their both of their health and like what does that mean for me? Because I had my kids in my 40s. My mom declined starting at 65. So that means I don't have a lot of time here. Like, I got to make this last, this whole thing last. And so my mom also suffered from osteoporosis. So I started lifting, heavy lifting, you know, with the like
With the
6
dumbbells, with the
reps
weights.
with the weights, you know,
In the gym.
close to failure type of thing, you know what I'm saying? And I have learned to say to my husband, I need to go work out today for my brain so that I can preserve this
Oh,
shit for
I
our
love that.
kids. I need to go. Can you please? Are you okay? Can I go? I have to prioritize this because I got to make this shit last. And so that has been huge for me. One, to know how to ask for that and to
Mhm.
know that it's okay to ask for that. And two, just doing it, I feel amazing. Like sometimes I
Yeah.
even feel hot.
Nice. I'm on the opposite end of that boat where I'm like, okay, I also feel the need to do that and to preserve this bod. And 1 year postpartum, I'm like, okay, I'm here with a 1-year-old again.
Radical
I like the
acceptance.
radical acceptance is real because
Radical upset.
while I would like to get to the gym 3 times a week, maybe
Yeah,
I'm
no.
on just our Peloton at home once a week, and that's
Yes.
all. Like that's all I got, right? And I have to remember that we have a 6-year-old and a 1-year-old
Yes.
because
That is in it.
that expectation is different, right? Like
Yes.
when they'll be 3 and 8 or whatever, like it's. But every part about where you're at, it's like the getting out in the sun, deep breathing, drinking water, which all these sound really boring, right? And like self-care tips, but like, fuck if they're not true. Getting good
Yes.
sleep. I
Amen.
mean,
Yeah.
Some
that all
extra sleep
matters.
is all we all really need in life, I think.
I
Mhm.
know.
Sleep, sun, tell me I'm pretty, and we're good here.
Yes. Yes.
Done. Done.
It's all we need.
You're pretty and you're pretty.
I love
Thank
words of
you.
affirmation. It's my love language.
We all need it.
We all need it.
But Robyn, I love your reflection of just, it's that crazy generational pull of, oh my gosh, I can see with my parents, and then therefore what my kids' lives could look like when they're 25 or 30. And I want them hopefully to be in a little bit better place than I am right now. And you're doing something to try to, get to that place as well, not just for yourself, but them, which I love.
I think
Yeah, and I
every
think
generation like kind of has or does that, right? Like
Mhm.
every generation wants things to be like a little better than they had. But in our generation, the space that we're in now, like the fact that our children are probably being raised with a little more emotional awareness, than our parents had,
Yes.
maybe like physical and just like the importance of like overall wellness rather than being so focused on like a body image
Mhm.
or,
Yeah,
you
us in the
know,
90s and the shit that we heard versus
Well,
exactly,
what
and
our
like and
you
daughters are
know,
going
informative.
through, very different.
right.
Exactly, yeah.
And my mom, you know, I think a lot about my mom, who is my big love in my life. And besides, I love my husband and my children, but she is, I think right now, kind of, she's
Mhm.
the love of my
She's
life
number
in
1.
a lot of ways. And so much praise for her. But like the other thing is she never slept. Everything was for me and my
Mm.
sister and my dad. And for a long time, I thought that's how I need to lead my life. I need to think when I become a woman, it's going to be about like I'm selfless and I just give to others and I don't even need to sleep. I'm just going to like, that's what I'm going to do because that's what she did. And and she modeled that. And there were so many beautiful things about her modeling that. But also, I was like, but I want her now. and I don't
Mhm.
have her now, and I don't know exactly if that's why. She also never ate a vegetable, but, like, I do feel like if I could go back and tell her, like, if you just sleep a little more and if you just prioritize, if you walk or if you lift weights or if you take care of yourself, like, we're not gonna hold that against you, like, because we're gonna get you
Mhm.
longer.
Yeah.
And that has given me so much clarity and purpose in my life that I did not expect. That is a silver lining out of all of this. So I think about that a lot.
One last thing that I just thought of too as like a tip. This is something that I've been reflecting on a lot as I've been editing our season 2 of our podcast, is that there's kind of this common theme that our culture in America right now is so productivity focused. Like we all feel like we should, like our self-worth is tied to like how much we get done each day,
Mhm.
which I think is, if you're in the sandwich generation, like yes, we're here being like fuck it, radical acceptance, but also there's so much to do that you always feel like you're not doing enough in
Yeah.
a weird way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that I'm sure is absolutely tied to that kind of like productivity culture. But we need to kind of like collectively,
Chill the fuck
yeah,
out.
and like recognize that wellness and sleep and like taking care of ourselves. I'm not talking about the annoying self care on the internet, right? But
Yeah,
like,
I know. That rubs me the wrong way too. I'm like, okay.
yeah, like enough with like the Instagram ads. Like, I just can't. But there is truth that like, if somebody needs to leave their job to be a caregiver during the time that they're sandwiched, that's not a failure. That's actually like such courage. And in that, maybe they have a little bit more time to take care of themselves, which you're right, makes them their odds probably better of staying around longer, Like
Mhm.
there's like a culture shift that I think has to happen. And as I say that, I mean, I gotta find my own way in that too. Like that's some like self-reflection that I'm doing because it's yeah, it's I feel like the idea that like you're successful because of how your business is or because of your job or your title and like how much you can juggle it all, is that actually healthy? Does that
Yeah.
like, I don't know that that serves us very well, especially when you're sandwiched. So I don't know.
Yeah,
Food for
that is
thought.
a benchmark of happiness is not proving to be accurate for sure.
Correct.
It's the
Yeah.
relationships, family, friends, how do we just get a different measurement benchmark here
Yes.
that of what
Mhm.
really matters?
Yes. And that's one of my hopes in like when we're talking about generations of what I hope to like pass down to my kids is like, you know, really great knowledge about like our food system and how to nourish your body and how to move your body and like strength train it. And also like your self-worth is not, doesn't need to be performative, right? It is the people around us and caring for those around us. And we talk about modeling. I mean, that's something that Robyn and I are we I think we're not perfect at it, but we can hang our hats on that every day, that our kids are seeing us like actively love and actively care for family members in our life. And a lot of families do this. They live multi-generationally, right? We just don't hear about it enough
Mhm.
in America. It is kind of like ship them off to assisted living. And, our parents both have things that their cares are beyond what we could give them at home, right? Which is
Yeah.
why we made those decisions. But so many people choose to have their loved ones live and be caregivers inside the home while working and while raising their kids. And like that's a whole different level too, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah, I love that. Oh, well, ladies, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so
Thank
much, Erin.
you.
You're
Thanks for asking
amazing.
us. We'll come back and talk your ear off anytime.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Find Your Fuel. If you enjoyed the show and want to support us, please leave a comment or review. And before we go, I have to give you the obligatory medical and legal disclaimer. This podcast is for informational and educational purposes only. The advice and recommendations we discuss are not intended as medical advice and do not replace the treatment or care of a physician or any other primary healthcare provider. Using the information shared today does not create a doctor-patient relationship, and it should not be used to diagnose or treat any health problem. Always consult with a qualified healthcare professional before making changes to your diet, exercise routine, or medications. The use of any information provided is solely at your own risk.
So in a nutshell, let's be smart and remember these stories and conversations are for educational purposes only. Help other women find the fuel to live their best lives. We'll see you in the next episode.